Hello coders, good afternoon. Hope everybody is well. Today we're going to do some really interesting work because we're going to be dealing with or building an API which is going to hopefully be, well, the idea is it's going to be for the code quiz. So if you don't know what that is, I've been doing a code quiz every weekday on Twitter and Instagram, where I've been putting out a poll, so Instagram story or a Twitter poll about a coding question. And last week we were focusing on JavaScript. Next week we're going to be dealing with CSS. And what I would like to do is build an open source API where I can store and read these questions. So the idea for this stream is the very first start to build that API. We're going to be doing it in PHP and with Symfony 6 using the API platform. And we're going to build the backend on Twitch, and I may see if I can build the front end on the YouTube streams. So that's going to be fun. And the idea is I literally haven't written a line of code for this, so it's completely fresh. And the plan is to get this ready for Hacktoberfest in October, so I can have some, it's open source. So if anybody wants to help out with this, then they're more than welcome. I literally, all I've done for this so far is create a repo called Code Quiz. And that's it. And even looking at this, I want to just change it a wee bit because I want this to be called Code Quiz API rather than just Code Quiz, because we're going to have the front end. Actually, see, this is a question. Do I put this in the front end? Have a front end and a back end? Maybe I should. Maybe it should just be called Code Quiz and it has an API. See, all these questions I haven't even thought of yet. I tell you what, let's just keep it nice and simple. Let's just use Code Quiz for now. We can have the Symfony backend, and I'm probably going to use like a React front end, React Native front end. But let's I don't know. Let's just play it. Let's just play with this. There's a pull request that I did last week, and it is literally just JSON files, nothing in there at all. They're just JSON files of the questions. I just wanted to store the questions that I had previously in here. So literally no code. Literally no code. So I guess what we'll do is we'll pull this down. So we'll do a... So this is on the laptop, isn't it? So it's not on this. So I'm going to have to start from scratch, aren't I? So, okay, let's get into the code. Let's pull it down from here. And it's public. It's public. So anyway, so yes, we need to get into here. And we're going to do a git pull or git clone of the thing. Code Quiz. Thank you very much. And then what I'll do is in here, I will open that up. So we'll do file, open, and we will open that up as a new project. Like so. So it's completely fresh, just has the license in it. Right. So I guess the first thing we need to do is actually start planning this. I want to be doing this as sort of like pull requests to the thing. I don't want to be using the main branch. I want to be using feature branches. I want to be doing this nice and properly. So what we'll do is we'll create some issues. There's create a README file and create JSON files for existing questions. I think that's going to be a long-standing one because every week you see I'm going to have 5 questions to add. So. And then what we can do is with this, we'll click on new issue. We'll say install Symfony 6. So install the Symfony 6 framework. And we'll do in an API folder, because I suppose what I could have, I tell you what, See, this is where it's going to get a bit tricky, because it's like there's going to be, maybe instead of doing issues, maybe what I should do is create a project. That's probably wise, right? So we can add a project. Let's do code quiz, and we'll do API. Can we do that? Is that gonna? Am I add a project? No project. First, go to the how to code well organization. Oh, okay. Sorry. Let's do that. Sorry. Beg your pardon. Right. Let's hit the new project. There we go. We would like this in a board, I think. New board, new table. I don't know. Let's go with table. I don't know. Start from scratch. Create. And it's a project backlog, team backlog. Yeah. I think that's more Kanban-y, isn't it? Right, there we go. That's what I want. Right, so why does it say PFWD backlog? That's not right. Oh man, have I screwed this up already? Close project. I think I have. Ugh, projects. New project. Team backlog. Create. Can I change that to? For God's sake, no! This is all of these. Oh, this is so frustrating. Why can't I do it? Projects. Close project. God damn it. Can't I give my project a name? Click on board. Great. Start with a fast and simple task board. Easily switch to table layout at any time. Fine. I think. Can I? I can rename it. Okay, fine. Ugh. Right. So we'll do code quiz. We'll do code quiz, and we'll do API. We'll just do code quiz. Right, here we go. On the to do, we'll add an item. So this is to create folder structure. We'll create another one. So install Symfony 6, and then we will create another one, which is create or install API platform. We'll create another one, which is entities. So we'll create. So the idea is that we'll have a quiz, and for every quiz there is going to be multiple questions, and for every question there's going to be multiple answers, one of which is going to be correct. So let's create the quiz entity. Next one is to create the question entity. Next is to create the answer entity. And then what happens once that's done? Oh yeah, I would like to create. I think we'll leave it like that, but I think in the future what I wouldn't mind is having some tagging, so we can create some tags. So we can say that, hey, this quiz is tagged by intermediate, beginner, advanced, that kind of thing. I don't know whether I'm going to call it a tag or a complexity level, but with a tag, it's kind of fast and loose. You can do all sorts, like, you know, if it's got more security type questions, then you could tag it with security. Okay, so create an answer entity, create a question entity, create a quiz entity. We want to create a quiz. Create quiz list endpoint, API endpoint. So this will be like find me all of the quizzes. Get all quizzes, and then we can create another one, which is create, say, once we've got the quiz, we've got, say, a quiz ID or a slug, which is unique. What we can do is from there we can get the questions. So we can get create quiz endpoint, because the quiz will have the questions and it will have the answers. And I think that's about as as complicated as it needs to be. So let's fill these out. So create a folder structure. Why are these all in draft mode? I'm not too sure. Okay, got to add a description here. Edit. Right, here we go. So create folder structure. So we want API and we want app, because the API is going to be Symfony 6, and the app is going to be React Native. So that's about as what we need. We also within the API we need things like Docker and other things. But I guess that's for another ticket. So we'll update that. We'll convert that to an issue. It goes to the code quiz. And labels, assignees. So labels, we'll do good first issue. We'll do enhancement, I guess. Okay. I suppose we could create a milestone. I don't know. Maybe I'll think about that later. So there's that, and then once we get to the install of Symfony 6. So I don't know what we'll do, how far we'll get through all these today. So install Symfony 6. We would like this to be, so install Symfony 6 inside the API folder. Convert to an issue, yaha. Code quiz. And we'll do a good first issue. That's good. Okay, cool. Why have I not edit that? Sorry. Install Symfony 6 inside API folder. Right. Okay, cool. Let's get rid of that one. Okay, so install the API platform. So this is going to be installing it to, say, installing the API platform. I suppose I'll best put a link to this. So API platform Symfony. Now, we probably need to do this before we do, or after we do the entities, just because it's easier. So we'll just do API platform here. So install after the entities have been created, right? So I'm kind of creating like a what do you call it? Sort of a dependency here. So convert to issue, code quiz. Boom. Right. Okay, so now we get to the entities. So this, we're going to have a little bit more on these than just, you know, a one-liner, because what we've got here is a table, a database table. So we need to have ID. We need to have, so let's do table schema. So we have ID. We have name, or maybe we have title, quiz title, and then we have then we have slug. Sure. I think that's all we need actually for that. I think so. We'll do this convert to issue, code quiz again, and we definitely need tests for these as well. So I will. Why have I find this interface very weird. It's a bit tricky to navigate. I'm so used to like Jira and stuff. This is a little bit, I don't know, it's just a bit weird. So this is the question entity. So again, we got table schema. And so this one would have an ID. This would have a quiz ID. This would also have a question title. Although maybe we should say content, question content. I think for now that is good. I think content. Yep. Where it gets interesting is the answer, because what we've got with the answer is let's come out of that. Where we've got the answer, we've got things like correct answer. So okay, so we've got ID again. We've got question ID this time. We've got content, which is the content of the answer, but we've also got is correct. Now, by having is correct means that we can actually have multiple answers that are correct. So this is good. We could also have, say, a display order. So the order in which we want to display the answers, so the potential answers. So that would be handy. Okay. So I'll just put down what that is. Now we're being very slapdash with this, of course. I'm not going into any kind of detail as to what the schema in terms of like whether they're varchars or integers or what have you. I'm being very sort of like, let's just get this done kind of attitude at the minute. I will sit down and do this properly, I think, sort of review these, because when we get to the point of October, where it is Hacktoberfest, then it would be nice to make this easier for new people to come on board and actually start developing this. So I would like this to be a project where they go, oh, this is actually, this is set up for Hacktoberfest. This is good. So create a list API endpoint. So this is going to be quiz, and it's going to be paginated. So it's going to have, so this is create a paginated API endpoint that lists all of the quizzes. Now, this is where we could use things like tagging, quizzes, but I think it's probably best to focus, sort of double down on the MVP a little bit. I think, because otherwise it'll never go out. Quizzes, it's got double Z, doesn't it? Quizzes. Okay, so here we could have quiz, and then we could have page is equal to, say, 2, and we could have, say, something along the lines of limit is equal to 10, that kind of thing, right? So it's a paginated thing, and it's going to return JSON, which I'm yet to define. So we'll convert that back to an issue, and we'll say that this needs to be a good first issue, and that, yes, and it's an enhancement, isn't it? Cool. Then after this, we have our create quiz endpoint. So I think what I need to rename that, because it's it needs to be. See, this is what gets confusing. You've got an edit button here, you've got an edit button there. There's no relation. There's a sort of like, you don't know that that is actually editing this and this is actually editing that. Do you know what I mean? It just seems a bit, the UI it just isn't there. Anyway, enough of me having gripes over GitHub projects. So we're going to do add quiz endpoint. Or let's do, I don't want to do build, I don't want to do create, so build a quiz endpoint. So let's edit that one. So create API endpoint that lists all of the questions and their answers for a given quiz. So you would have something like quiz, and then you would have maybe the slug of the quiz. So slug like that. So let's hit update. Is that not? Are you not allowing me to put in? Okay, fine. So I'll put in these things. And again, I will convert it to an issue. I will put it to code quiz. I will set it to be a good first issue, and I'll set it to be an enhancement. Now, obviously, there's a ton of stuff around this. Oh, why is it invalid? That I need to build. There's one extra one I think I need to do, and that is around the Docker stuff. So what we want to do is create Docker compose. Now this is going to be so create a Docker compose file with the following services. So we have API, and then we have DB. And the DB is going to be, we're going to do Maria DB, and we're going to have that as Nginx. And we're going to say this should live in the API folder. Right. API folder. Update. Right. Again, very slapdash, very bare minimum. So it's an enhancement. It's a good first issue. Okay, fine. Right. Okay, so right. We've got 9 to-do items to do. We'll put them in a relatively good order. So we've got, first of all, we need to create the folder structure because there's nothing there. Then I probably need to get a start with the infrastructure. So we need to create the Docker compose file. Otherwise, there's nothing we need to build the containers, obviously. So let's create the container for the API. Then once that's done, we need to then install Symfony 6. Then once that's done, we can create the entity create the entities, and then once that's done, we can then install the API platform, and then we can do these two, the list API endpoint and the quiz API endpoint. And there, and that should be good. I mean, there's going to be a whole bunch of things that I want to add. Things like the API needs to have like versioning, so v1, v2, all that stuff. We also need to create a subdomain, so it'll be coding like api.codingquiz or could it be coding quiz dot whatever and then / API? I don't know. I haven't worked that out yet. Then we've got things like API keys. So I want this to be authenticated. So there's a whole ton of fun to do with that. There's obviously installing the database. Again, lots of stuff that needs to happen there. Thank you very much for following me. I can't pronounce that. Jonas Lion. Thank you very much for following. I do appreciate that. That's very kind of you. So yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll work on the folder structure first. That's the first thing we'll do, and then we'll create the Docker Compose file. I guess I'm going to have to jump in and out of this, create the README, all of that jazz as well. So let's bring that into play. And what I'll do is, if you just excuse me, I'm going to just run down. I need to get a cup of tea, a drink of water, and I've been outside painting a wooden swing. So I am covered in dry paint. I want to try and get some off because it's starting to irritate. So I will be a couple of minutes and then we'll get back to it. Okay, so I appreciate your hanging about. See you in a bit. Okay, so back with my cups of tea, well, a tea and a drink of squash, and still got paint on my hands. Had paint on my face earlier. Damn. But the swing is looking better. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get on with this. So we need to create a folder structure, and it's going to be fairly straightforward. This it's going to be like API and app. That's all. So this is hash 4 or issue 4. So let's get into this. So let's get the what am I looking for? I am looking for terminal. Yeah. Why is that not? Hang on. What's going on? Why aren't you allowing me to open up the terminal? What? What? There we go. Odd. Right. Sorry about that. Right. So we'll do git checkout of. We'll do. Does this have any kind of? No. Okay. We'll do 4. And this will be folder structure. Oh, sorry. I need to do. I need to get back to. Oh. Sorry. 4. Folder structure. Right. Okay, cool. So our folder structure is going to have the a folder called API and a folder called app. Now the idea is that the app is going to be our React Native app in there, and the API will have our Symfony 6. Now I'm wondering if it's probably easier to do this to install Symfony 6, I think, in one. So if I was to go to, say, the Symfony website, Symfony, and have a little look at the documentation for installing it. So this is using the Symfony commands, and now I'm thinking maybe we should start creating a Docker Compose file and actually create a container and then install it in there, because then the container will be correct rather than installing it on my own host machine. That's probably wise, actually. So yeah, that's probably wise. So in here we'll create a new folder called Docker Compose. In fact, we'll create a .gitignore in there, and we'll create a .gitignore in here. Cool. Just so what I can do here is git status. I can actually commit these in. So git status. So we'll do. That's .idea. We need to get rid of that. So we'll do a .gitignore at this point, and we'll put in a .idea because we want to ignore that. So git status again. Good stuff. So let's do git commit -m, and we'll do 4, and we'll do, what should we do? Creating basic folder structure. And adding ignore files. Let's get rid of that. And we want to put that in API. And we want to do app. Cool. And we also want to do a git status as well, because we've modified the ISM. We've modified the git ignore, so we're ignoring .idea from root. And that is .gitignore. Okay, good. Right, so if we did git status, they should all be ready to go. Yep. So let's do a git push to push this up. Oh, I can't. Git branch minus m, and I can't spell folder. Struck draw. Right, sorry about that. Git push and set that up as upstream. Good. Right. Okay, so that is the first PR that's gone up. Or this one here, compare and pull. So this should be good, because it's just creating gitignore files and adding that as that. So that's great. I'll create that as a pull request. That looks good. I'll merge that in. Confirm the merge. And we're going to go back to here because I want to. So that's done. I want to add another item, and the item that I want to add is create create GitHub actions. Actually, I need something for that to happen, so let's not do that. Okay, so I'm getting ahead of myself. Right, so the next thing that we need to do is to install Docker Compose, and then install Symfony. Okay, yeah, so I had it right in my first instance. So with this, what we need to do is install the API and the database. So Nginx and the DB, that's fine. So we'll do git checkout of main, and we'll pull that down. And then we'll do a git checkout -b. And what's the number of this? 12. And this is Docker Compose. Right. So in API, I want to have a Docker Compose file, which is a YAML file, obviously. And I can't spell Docker Compose. There we go. And we're going to have some services. And those services are going to be API. And we've also got the DB. Right, so this is where it gets a bit funky, because the API we need to create a Docker image, which means we need to create a Docker file. So there's a lot of things that we need to do. I think what I need to do is modify this a bit, because it's just right. Okay, so let's do create Docker file for API. Create. We don't create. We don't need an API Docker file for that. for the DB. Okay, we also need to create Docker entry point for API. We'll leave the database for now, I think. Let's do pull down DB image. There's other things that we need to do, so we need to supply like database credentials and stuff. Let's just leave that there, and let's deal with the API, the Docker file for this. So we want to put the Docker file in the root directory, right? So we want to do Docker file in there. But actually, I'm thinking maybe we need to split this out. So maybe this needs to be in a folder called infrastructure. So infra, and then we have a Docker file in there. And so in here we have build Docker file infra Docker file. Context is current context. Okay. So in infra we can have another directory called scripts, and in scripts we can have a file called docker underscore entry point .sh. Right. Okay. So with this one we have a we're going to use MariaDB, aren't we? So if we go over to the Docker Hub and look at MariaDB, let's have a look and see if they've got any. Here we go. So MariaDB is what we're pulling down. I want to define a tag. So let's go to tags, and the tag, I don't want to use latest. I want to use let's do 10.9.2. 10.9.2. Thank you. That's fine. The root password, okay, let's set this up. So the root password will be test, and the what else do you have? What else do you have? Maria allowed empty root password. Root password, that's what we've got here. Random localhost user database MySQL. Okay, here we go. So the database, we're going to call this code quiz. Good. Okay, we'll leave that as is, because that's I think that's the bare minimum. So that'll build the code quiz database. Right, so back to this. We've got infra and Docker file. So in the Docker file, what we can do is say what we're using Nginx, right? That's the plan. That's the plan. So do. yeah, because we're using Nginx, we need to use get a vhost in. So again, that's in infra. So in scripts, we're going to have we'll have Nginx. I can't spell Nginx. And we will have a vhost file in there. Nginx. And in there we'll have our vhost file. So vhost.conf. And in the vhost.conf we'll have something like server, excuse me, server, oops. And in the server we'll have I'm thinking. I'm going to try and find an example. Bear with me a minute. 2 seconds. Is this a good example? I don't know. Where did that go? Sorry, I'm looking at this example and I'm not 100% sure if it's what I need. So give me a sec whilst I deal with this. There is a... Where's the Docker Compose file on this example? Docker Compose... There we go. So Nginx, that goes to .nginx Docker file. .nginx.docker file. Okay, so Nginx would be in the root level. So there we go. Sorry. Right. Build argument. Nginx. Right. You supply the argument, do you, in this one? That's frustrating in dev. Nginx.conf. Right. Here we go. Yes. So of course we need to do things like listen to port 80, right? Then we also we won't worry about SSL right now. That'll be something that we add to it. We'll say that the index is index.php, obviously. We'll say that the root is var wub HTML public. Good stuff. Then we'll deal with some logs. So we'll do access log, and that will be var wub. No, var log nginx access.log. We also need to deal with where is that? Okay, I'll just use the mouse. I was trying to select the whole line. That needs to be error. So that's the error log. Okay. Then we need to supply location. So we've defined the route as public. What we can do is say location location .php. Let's close that off. And in that location, we can supply things sort of like try files, URI equals 404. Let's use this. This is probably let's use the fast CGI stuff. That's probably wise. Let's just copy all that in. That's because it'll be easier, I think. Fast CGI stuff. Yeah. So bear with me. Wants to build all this in. Good. And we'll set the proxy headers as well. Okay. We won't worry too much about images yet and other things. I mean, this is supposed to be for an API, so whether we have a lot of those, I don't know. Right. Block all web requests, hidden directory. We'll worry about that later. We've set the index, right? Yeah, index is that. We probably need to supply index.html as well. Thinking about it. I'm not going to worry about gzipping stuff. Serve, not going to worry about that. Is there anything in there about the route? Document route. Document route. No. Okay, that should be fine then. Okay, right. I think that's good enough for that for now. Then what we should do is we've got the vhost in, we've got the Docker entry point, that's nothing at the minute. Then we've got the Docker file, which is nothing at the minute. Let's build that. So from Nginx Alpine, and then what we could do, we could set some arguments, couldn't we? So arg, let's do build env is equal to dev, and we'll set that as an actual env. So env is equal to build env. All right, so we can supply that in. And then what we could do is copy the Nginx yeah, we can copy the Nginx where is this? Oh, scripts, sorry. Nginx and the vhost to etc. I think this is correct. Nginx and then conf.d, I think, and then default .conf. Right. All right. So we're not doing anything special with this. I was the reason why I was pausing was whether or not we should create like a development version of a vhost. I don't know, and then like another version of. But again, I don't really know if we should be overcomplicating it or not. The Docker entry point doesn't have anything in it, and it's not being called yet. I don't know whether we should or not. I just kind of put that in there as a sort of a placeholder, I guess. Yeah. So, okay, let me go through this then. Well, we've built our Nginx Docker file. We also need to build a Docker file for PHP, right? Obviously. So, we need to have our PHP. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, I'm thinking what we need to do with this is split this up even further. So this should actually be Nginx rather than API. Nginx. And this should be our API. Right? So that goes to infra. That's now going to, instead of infra, we should create this as Nginx. Nginx, right? So the scripts goes into there. We'll have to change the paths and things. And that goes into there. And then we create another directory in here called API. Right. So let's just tidy that up. So that should go to scripts. Does this still find vhost? Yeah. All right, that's cool. All right, that's good. So this should, yeah, Nginx. Have I spelt that wrong again? Engine, huh? X, there we go. I have spelt that wrong. Let's refactor rename. So Nginx. All right. Sorry about that. Cool. All right. So then we have another one here, which is API, and that has a Docker file as well. Yes. So the context for this would be infra Nginx. And the context for you would be infra API, I think. Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe the Docker file needs to come to the root level. This is getting a bit complicated. Let's just create our Docker file for the API. The API is going to be in PHP. So let's grab that. Go through my notes. Sorry. Right. So yes, this is going to be PHP, and it's going to be 8.1, and this will be home to Symfony. So let's say this is what I was trying to do with the build arguments, to be honest, with this. So perhaps we don't need those, to be honest. Why is that complaining? That should be scripts vhost conf space. There we go. All right, so maybe it's just that simple for the Nginx one. The API, what we have is our environment. So let's just call that env. That's fine. And then what we need to do is start actually installing all the things that we need to do. So I think for what I'm going to try and do is just load up what's on the website and just see what we can pinch from there. So that's probably a good start. Let's go to dev. Let's go to web server. Let's go to Dockerfile. So we've got things like xdebug. We've got the app version. So I think what I'll do is I'll just web server base. Let's have a look at that. Actually, that's probably a better example. That would be an all in here. So that's using 8.6. That's running Peckle, Redis. Yeah, so let's grab that, and I'll just put this down in my notes for a sec. When that loads up. Cool. And I'll grab the dev one as well. So web server Dockerfile. Grab that as well. Post that down here. Right. So let's just change the project back to the code quiz. Right. So with our API, which is this one, excuse me, what we need to do is specify a couple of things. So I'm looking at the old Docker file and I'm comparing it to this one, or the website Docker file, which admittedly is on 8.0.6 and this is on 8.1, and this is using Apache rather than this one is using Nginx. So it's just slightly different, but we'll get there in the end. So I want to expose port 80, and I want to define the working directory to var web HTML. I want to install a bunch of stuff, so we're going to install let's go through this. So we've got Maria, libcurl3, libssl dev, and zip. That seems fine. The Intel and the PDO. That sounds good. We also want to deal with zip as well, because this is going to be for Composer. We also want to install the rewrite of headers, although this is Apache, so we don't want to worry. We don't want to deal with that. We don't need to worry about Redis. We don't need to worry about all of that stuff. However, we probably need to deal with the Peckle HTTP extension. So let's grab that as well. And then at the end of it, we do an auto clean and stuff. And then that would be kind of our base. And then after that, we then start dealing with other things. So what environment variables have we set? Just the env, haven't we? So what we could do is we're not going to worry about xdebug yet. That's going to be something else that we add to it. Let's add an argument. So db, let's add that. And we've dealt with, we're not worrying about xdebug. That's fine. We're going to pull down Composer, and we're going to we're not going to worry about, well, we don't have Composer yet to worry about, so any Composer files to worry about, so we won't worry about that, but we'll get it ready at least, and then so this is where we would start doing the entry points, but I'm not going to be too worried with that. We can copy the app directory, couldn't we? Let me just compare this to here. Copy from Composer. Let's grab the latest Composer rather than mine. That's probably wisest. We've set the working directory already. That's fine. And we don't have yeah, all right. Okay, we'll define a few things. So above here we'll set the user and the host ID in the GUID as well. And what we'll do is around the composer parts we'll change the user. So when we get to this bit here, we'll change the user to that username that we've just specified, which is www.data. And then what we'll do is we'll copy the source files over. So we'll churn to the username of username, so www.data, and we'll copy over. Now this is in current working directory, but what we actually need to do is copy. This is where it gets complicated. The Docker file actually needs to live in the root directory for this to work. So let's go to, well, when I say root, I mean the API directory. So this needs to be in here, right? For this to work. So that would be that. So that would be dot. Which means we need to have a Docker ignore file in here, which is fine, which is perfectly fine. We also need to change this context to be dot, right? For that to work. So Docker file, right, app home, right. Okay, so the app home will be our working directory, right, which will be this. So let's create another variable, another environment variable. So env, we'll call this app_home, and that's going to equal to here. We will change the working directory right at the bottom. So we'll do all the installs at the root, and then when we get to the username, we'll put that in there, and we can change that to be app home, like that. Good. Okay. I think. I mean, we don't have Composer yet, so there's, yeah, you know, it's not. It's what it is. And then at the end of it, we'll change the user back to root. Yeah. So we'll worry about. So at this point, we need to install stuff from Composer, I guess. But because we don't have Composer, there's no worry about that yet. Okay, so I think that kind of, let's just go through this again, just so I've got this wrapped it right in my head. So we've got things like do we have Git? That's kind of important. No, we don't. Let's do that. Let's add Git in. I think what I'll do is I will put this as some lines down here, so I can actually see them. So I'll put them on individual lines, I think. So we've got MariaDB client, we've got the Git, we've got libcurl dev, we've got SSL, we've got ICQ, we've got G++. What else? We've got unzip, and we've got libzip dev. We've got zip, and we've got curl. So all important things that we need. Zip, and we've got curl. Good. Okay. What else should we install? I think for now, though, I think that's all right. We'll leave it as is. We'll add stuff if we need to. I think we probably need to add the public directory, although Composer should add that, right? So we would add the Composer directory. I'm thinking maybe we need to add public. I don't really know. Oh, I tell you what we do need. We need to deal with the PHP FPM stuff, right? So this should be FPM, and then that's fine. Right. So then we need to wire that up, right? So let's just see. Go through my notes with that. All right, we need to create a FPM log config file. So we need to let's just sorry about this. I'm just going through some bits. Yes. So in Nginx, well, it's not really in Nginx, is it? In API, there we go. We could have it's scripts. See, it's not really a script; it's config. Maybe we should have config, or maybe we shouldn't just worry about the levels of directories and just create our config file in here. Maybe that's wise. Maybe I'm going a little bit gun ho with adding these. So let's do www.conf. So in here we need to create and then we need to have things like the user, which is equal to, as we've seen, and the grouping. And we've got, we want to listen for things that are on, how do we do this? Anything on port 9000. And I tell you what's probably best is if I was to I think that's probably the bare minimum. Yeah, I think that's the bare minimum, I think. But what we do need to do is actually pipe that through. So we go to our here again, and down where we're copying bits and pieces. So like at this point, we need to copy that. So we need to do copy. So this would be in infra, it would be in API, and it would be conf, and that is going into user local, and it's going into etc PHP, and then also PHP FPM even, and then .d and then the actual file name. All right, okay. There's other things, PHP ini, for instance, we need to we'll probably end up altering. I think for now though, we'll just, that'll be good for now. So back to here, we have the API. That's actually not in the doc. That's not in there. It's actually in Docker file. I think that's correct. Right, so we've got Nginx, we can supply arguments as well. So we've got environment. So we've specified. Have we specified build argument? I think we have. Or build env. That's what we need. So we'll set that to be dev. Actually, that's not an environment variable, is it? It's an argument that we want to supply to here. So args is that. Yes. And we got the same one on this one, I think. So args. So again, yep. And it should be, sorry, it should be that, shouldn't it? It shouldn't be a string. It should be, there we go. Right. And we've also specified the host host UID as well. And we've also specified the host GUID as well. So all right, cool. Right, so we're going to say that Nginx depends on Symfony. Which is the API. And we're going to say that the API depends on the database. So that would be DB. Right, so in the order it gets built, this would happen, then this would happen, then this would happen. I think that's right. I think I've done all the things. Let's specify a network as well. So our network will be, let's just call this code quiz, because that's code quiz, like that, with the name of code quiz. Remove prohibited. Oh, do I need to? Probably needs to be in one thing, right? So, oh, it's a service. You idiot! You idiot! It's not. You've put it in the service block. It needs to come outside of this. Sorry, it needs to go there. Ah, no! I've just removed it from my clipboard. Right. There we go. And we probably should, as good practice, create a version. I don't know what the latest version is at the minute, but let's do 3.5. That's always a good one to use. And it's networks, not network. There we go. Right, and then we'll apply these to the networks. So we'll have networks, code quiz. There we go. And can we do code quiz with underscores? Yes, I think we can. Let's do that. Just because it's gets rid of that squizzy line. Again, that's on the network, and again, that's on the network as well. Good stuff. All right, so we're getting there slowly but surely. We're starting to build this Docker file out. What else shall we do? I guess we need to deal with volumes, right? So with the volume, now I can't remember what this is, so we'll have to have a look at the old project. Well, I say the old project, the website project. I can't remember what the volume is. I'm looking for the volumes for the database. So let's scroll down to this one. So yeah, that's the volume that we've created there. That's the proxy, that's the podcast, that's the app. We're looking for database. So here we go, volumes, var lib MySQL. We've got the confd. Oh, that's adding configuration, and that's a log. Right, that's what I want. That's what I want. I think what I'll do is I'll just copy all of it and I'll just paste it into my notes because I'm probably going to need to refer back to it. So let's go back to that project. Sorry about that. Go back to here. Right, so we'll specify some volumes. So let's do db data. db data. And let's set that into our database. So our database has a volume of db data. And that volume of db data is going to let me see on the old db. Here we go. Notes db data is going to var lib MySQL. It's important to get that right. There we go. Yeah, right. Now I know there's going to be other volumes for things like logging and obviously the Symfony stuff and Composer stuff and all of that stuff, caching and other things, but because I haven't installed it yet, it's kind of outside of the scope of this ticket. I'm already breaching the scope of this ticket, and I've just realized that my tea is probably very cold, so let me slurp it down. Just on the cusp. Yeah, so I obviously need to run this and actually see if this all works, and it'll probably all fall apart and catch fire, but that's fine, because that's, you know, that's what we're going to do. And if this is all I get to do today, then that's fine. I've got those other tickets that I can work my way through whenever I've got a spare couple of minutes, or if anybody else wants to jump on and help me out with this project. But essentially what we've got here is a Docker file that deals with PHP 8.1 FPM. We're setting host IDs, and we're setting the username. So I'm just going through this. Then we've got the app home directory. So that's kind of like the document root, if you will. I haven't done anything for SSL apart from install the SSL bits and pieces. So that's all I need for it right now. We're installing things like HTTP and the what was the other one? PDO extensions. That's fine. Not doing anything spectacular at the minute with Composer because we don't have a Composer file, but it's all set up to run that. We're going to copy everything in the current working directory that is not in our Docker ignore file, so I'll have to deal with that in a minute, to our app home, which is our document root. And then we're copying over the conf file of the FPM conf file over, and then we're setting it back to root. So let's go and build it. It'll probably just catch fire. Docker Compose up. It will probably burn, but let's just give it a go. No configuration. That's a good start, isn't it? Where does this? Oh, so I need to be in. Okay, I need to be inside the API. So again, this is something that I need to document in terms of the README. But let's just run this through. So Docker Compose up -d. Let's bring up these containers. So the host ID, okay, that's not set, defaulting to a blank string. That might throw an error. Nginx refers to an undefined network code quiz. Invalid. Okay, let's sort that out first. Let's work that through. So code quiz. Right. Right, let's try that again. Okay, so this we'll need to fix that. These two. We might be able to get rid of them, to be honest, but this is pulling down the various bits and pieces, so we'll wait for that to run through, and hopefully we'll be in a good spot. I've just thought, what else is running? Lots of things. Okay, we probably need to remove those, so let's do that. So let's do docker compose down on all those. What? Oh. No, it's out of that. Docker compose -f. Bring those down whilst they're being built. It's probably wise, right? Because we're dealing with like ports and stuff. Although I haven't actually set that to be used, the ports, but it's best to clean it, have a clean slate. So if we did docker ps now, that's fine. All right, cool. So here we go. Could not find API infra nginx. Right. Does this give any indication? No such file or any indication as to what this refers to. So let's have a look at this. So right, we're using the infra. Well, first of all, what images do we have? We have many images, right? Let's just get rid of those for a minute. Let's just clear the machine of all the things. So infra nginx docker file. This is coming from this. So we've got infra nginx docker file, right? So that's fine. The context, I reckon it's the context that's it's screwing up. I think the context infra nginx. I would kind of want it to be in there, but because the error that I can't probably see now because all these things are too big. There we go. Right, users, blah, 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 API, infra, nginx, infra, nginx, infra, nginx. Right. So I think it's, I think it adds it on to the actual, to that. So this should be dot, I believe. I think. Unless, yeah, right. How are we getting on with this? All right, that's good. Right, let's do a docker compose up again. Bring all those things up. So I've just torn everything down, so we have to deal with this, unfortunately. Right. So then hopefully I can get a container that is running for the API and running for Nginx, and then hopefully I can install Symfony and then build the entities. That's kind of like the way I want to go, the plan of action. Right, here we go. Filelib, no such file. Okay, this is the Nginx thing. It's to do with this file directory thing I've gone and messed up, isn't it? I think if we go to our Docker Compose file, it's this. I'm sure it's this. Let's just bring that back to Nginx, right? Because in here, scripts, Nginx, vhost. Do we need to do that? And let's build that again. Could not find code quiz infra Nginx, infra Nginx. All right, infra Nginx, infra Nginx, and then it's going for infra Nginx again, which would be what we put down in here. Now, if I was to remove that and change this, so this would be the Docker files scripts. Yeah, that should now be more happier with that. However, it can't find error. It can't seem to mount it. No such file or directory. Scripts Nginx. Do I have to do this from the root? So that would, if I did, that would be infra infra Nginx Nginx scripts Nginx vhost. Let's give that a go. It's looking better, isn't it? So yeah, I need to adjust the context, the paths of all these things. That's fine. We haven't added a Docker ignore file in there, so we're just basically saying have at it to all the things. But that's all right for the time being. I'll obviously change that. So we appear to be building Composer now. So we're running off of the PHP 8.1 FPM. Just realized that this is a bit too big for the stream. There we go. Oh, it's because it's not quite sat flush, is it? That's fine. Okay, so now it's installing all things. So this is installing like MariaDB and all that stuff. I'm gonna have a sit down. Good. Good. Okay. So whilst this is going, I guess what we can do is I'm not going to be too worried about the context today. That might be a bug that I deal with later. So with the context, I mean like this stuff here. So I'm not overly concerned with that. I want to make sure that this is running, and I want to make sure that we've got a database that we can access. This might be an interesting challenge. I obviously need to supply port 80 as a expose it. So that will be on the Nginx side. And we also need to do a bind mount to the API directory into the document root. Well, I'm curious as to why it's taking so long. It seems to be doing all sorts of things. 4 of 11. I guess because I told everything to tear itself down, then it might. Or 15 of 24. I suppose whilst this is going on, what we can do is start looking at the tickets again. We might as well. So let's bring that over there. All right. So create a Docker compose. That should be compose file with the following services. So we've got the API DB. We've also got, so that will be PHP 8.1. FPM. We've also got our Nginx container. We'll put these as sort of to-dos, I think. So create the Docker file for the API for the API. Yep. Create a Docker entry point for the API. No, we're not going to worry about that too much, I don't think. Pull down the database for the DB image. Create Docker file for Nginx. Then we've got configure PHP FPM. Configure PHP or Nginx. Right, how we go? Oh, okay, and it's all started. Everything's running. We've created a volume as well, created the network. If we did docker ps -a, what have we got? We've got the Nginx. We've got the database that's running. That's great. These are down. So we'll have a little look at that, Docker logs. And we'll have a look at API Nginx 1. So here we go. So there's a few things in here. So Docker entry point.sh is not empty. Will attempt to perform configuration, looking for shell scripts. Right. So we need to get rid of that. That's what's causing that problem. So that needs to go. And then here we've got getting checksum. That's more entry point rubbish. Configuration is complete, ready for startup. Then we've got an unknown directive. Listen. That's spelled correctly on line 2. Listen. So that would be in here. Would it not be in listen? Yes, I mean that's correct. Let me have a look at my notes again. Sorry, let me see where that's running. So Docker nginx dev nginx.conf. Here we go. Right. So server and then listen on port 80. That is correct, right? Ah, I put in a colon. All right, fine. So we've got listen, then we've got the index, then we've got access logs, then we've got the location. Okay, fine. So let's do this one at a time because I know that the other one's failing, but let's do Docker. Let's do Docker compose down. Let's just bring them back down, and then let's bring them back up again. And then let's do a log of u. So it's still saying that listen is not correct. And it's still using the colon on the end there. Right, so have I added this somewhere else? No. How strange. Ah, okay, I see what I've done wrong. With the Docker file, I'm copying it, right? So I'm actually copying it. So it would what I would need to do is Docker well, I'm presuming it's stopped, right? So let's do Docker ps-a. Yes, it is. So let's do a Docker rm. Let's do a Docker compose build of nginx. And we probably should have done it with no cache, but okay. And then let's do a Docker compose up -d. Bring that back up. And then let's do a Docker ps-a. It's still exited. Let's do a logs. Okay, here we go. So that got over that issue. There's still a problem with the entry point, which is weird. But anyway, the host not found in upstream, Symfony in default. Whoa, what's going on with that? Upstream. Aha, that should be API. So again, I'm going to have to do a build on these. So build nginx. And then we do an up. And then we do a logs. Right, host not found. API. All right, okay. So that's probably down because the API is down. So if we did Docker logs, and this time do a API 1. Okay, so here we go. We've got some problems with the FPM stuff. So alert pull wub. The process manager is missing. That's a bit worrying. Failed to post process. Configuration initialization failed. Okay, right. So let's have a little look at that then. So with the Docker file here, so we're dealing with this. It might be something to do with that, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm gonna Google this actually and just see. I'm sure I've missed some configuration somewhere. You need to add the I'm missing options, aren't I? So that would be an API. That would be in here. Yeah, you need to add PM option to your config, for example, using the on-demand process management. Yes. All right. So I'm looking at Stack Overflow. So yeah, I've missed a couple of things here, haven't I? We've got user, we've got group. we should do listen owner, listen group as well, I think. Let's just go refer back to my notes a minute. Here we go. So we've got on demand, max children, we've got start servers, spare servers. Okay, yeah, there's things I need, so that can get removed. There's things I need to add. Yeah, let's copy those in. Right, and then down on here, let's do a Docker compose. And with this, let's just double check. Am I passing this in as a mount? I'm not. So this would be copied through, right? So we would copy it in. So yeah, I need to do a Docker compose build, but this time of API to build that in. Okay, now I need to do a Docker compose up. So restart those things, bring them back up, and then we can do a Docker ps-a. And we have the API, which is up, which is great, but the Nginx is down. So let's just have a little look at the logs of API for a second. We don't need to follow. So ready to handle connections. Yay! That's good. That's always good. So this one here, Docker logs of API Nginx 1. We have a problem with an unknown FE HTTPS variable. Okay. Oh, I've probably copied over the stuff for the SSL stuff and I'm not using it. That's probably why. I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? So it would probably be somewhere in here in the vhost. So here we go. Yeah. So I'm gonna comment that out, I suppose. I guess. I think. To do enable when SSL is installed. Right. Right, let's just see if that does the thing we want it to do, right? So again, let's go back to view and tools and terminal. So Docker, well, we're gonna have to rebuild all this again. So do build, or just that. It's the Nginx that we want to rebuild this time. And then we do Docker compose up -d, and then we do Docker ps-a, and they're both up. That's really great. So we've got the containers now running. So we have our Nginx container, and we've got our API container, and we've got our database container. So if we did Docker logs -a or -f, sorry, of a, well, we don't need to follow them because we're not actually accessing them. So we do Nginx 1. That should say that we are starting the process. So which it is, and it's up and it's ready. So that's really great. That's great to see. And then we can do logs of the API, and that should say that it's ready to handle connections. And if we did the database as well, what do we get with that? I'm assuming that's DB1. We have ready for connections on you as well. So I tell you what, let's log into MariaDB. So let's do a Docker. Sorry, Docker exec-it, and we'll go in to API DB1, and we'll go in as MySQL -u root -p, That should give us a prompt. Yeah, test is the password. There we go. So if we did show databases, we should have a database called Code Quiz. Show databases. Code Quiz. Yes, we do. Marvelous stuff. Okay, so we are good to go. I want to just I want to just Google this a minute. I want to get some proper definition as to what that is, because the FE HTTPS is a variable. So yeah, replace the existing HTTPS if not with the following HTTPS. Personally, I prefer. So I'm sorry, I'm reading a server fault post here about how to set this up. I think what I'll do is I'll remove it for now, because we'll have a ticket to enable SSL. So okay, this is looking great. This is looking really good. If we hit it with a request, so let's just see where this would be. This would be on localhost, right? I think. Let's just hit it with a request and see what happens. Whoops. Sorry, suddenly all the windows decided to open. No, that's that. Right. So that's it's still saying it's refusing to connect. Oh! I know what we're not doing. We're not exposing the ports. That's what we're not doing. So in Docker Compose, well, this is like 101 of how to build a. Yes. So in here we need to expose the ports. Sure. Sorry. Yes. Let's just get back to my notes. Docker Compose. There we go. Right. So here we go. In Nginx, we need to expose the ports. We'll do this. I'll put it down here in between the Docker, the build and the depends. So we'll have ports, and we want to, again, if we were using SSL, then we would expose 443, but we're not. So let's do, for now, let's do, put this in a string 8080. And I guess that's all we need, right? So because this is a compose file, we can do back from here. Let's come out of that. Let's do a Docker Compose up -d. That should bring that back up, and we should be able to see, if we did Docker PS-A, we should be able to see, yes, that is what I was after. So again, I'm going to go over to this screen and just refresh. There we go. So we have this, which isn't great, right? It's obviously failing, but we've got a 404. It's because there's nothing to show. Technically, if we were to add something in here, say into our public folder that we're yet to create, that would show up. I guess we could do that as a dummy run. So we would have outside of infra, we would have something that would replicate public. Let me just double check something a minute. I just want to double check the Docker file for that. That would be going into var HTML, and down here what we're doing is we're copying all the things to that. I just want to get into the container a minute. I just want to see what. Yeah, we'll do it through here. Let's get into that container. I just want to see what is showing. So let's do a docker exec-it of you going in as bash. Right. So we're in the working directory, and if I was to do an ls, we have our docker file, docker compose.yaml, and the infra. Okay, so that isn't great. What I was aiming for. Well, I suppose this is API. So I suppose what we could do on the Docker Compose file on the API level, is we could create a volume. Can we? We could go volumes, and then we could have a bind mount, which is API, which would be no, it would be you, right? To var web HTML. This means that I can now put things in it. Yeah. All right. So again, let's spin this down. So let's do a docker compose down of API. Bring that down. Unknown command down. What? Let's just do up -d. So that should recreate. Right. So if we went back into the container, like you, do an ls, that's what we've just seen. But if I did if I created a public directory in here, and then in there we create our file, and we do index.html, and I think I've set it so index.html is root. Let's do a h1 sorry, h1 hello world, right? Save that. If we were to do an ls now, we have our public directory. So because we're using a bind mount rather than a Docker volume. So we now have public, and in public we now have our index.html. So the idea is to get to the point where we can actually get to that, but it's obviously not working. So what we need to do is adjust a couple of things. So with a Docker, so that's correct, but obviously something's not quite right with our configuration. With our scripts for, say, Nginx, with .php. Maybe we should change that to be .php. Let's do that. So let's do .php, and that should be fine. Still no good. Okay. Right. So then let's go into there again. So we should be sort of in here. API fast. Okay. Index.php. Yeah. But it's looking for it in var web HTML public. Right. So that's where we're at. Var web HTML public, which is fine. So I'm just trying to work out. where it's not quite right. Let's just bring that back up again. Maybe I need to do that. No. Interesting. Let's take a look at the logs. API nginx x1. Okay, here we go. So it's complaining about the favicon. That's fine. And a 404. So this is what we're getting, 404s. So if we were to run that, we would be getting a 404. And if we were to look at the logs for, say, the API, we don't have anything in there. That's pretty useless. Right. Okay. But we do have containers. So that's... I'm just trying to think. Is this, like, how far into this ticket do we need to go? Create a Docker file for the API, done that. Create a Docker file for Nginx, done that. Pull the database down, done that. Configure PHP. So I guess we need to deal with the configurations of these things. So let me think a minute. Let me go back to my notes because I've obviously screwed something up. So PHP FPM 404 Docker. Right. Right. Okay. So. Sorry, I'm looking at I'm trying to connect to Docker Compose up and try to connect to file not found and logs. So, but the thing is, those logs are. Let's just get into that container. It might be worth just doing a exe into that, and then doing a tail -f of var log. And no, that would be the wrong container. I mean, is it not? I'm trying to work out. That's the root. Have I defined the root correctly? Have I defined the root correctly? Root var wub HTML public. Var wub HTML public. Yes. So that's correct. Have I defined the index correctly? Index.php and index.html. Yes. Okay. So then we have location. So we've got try files, URI, URI index.php args. And then we have our location here, which is that's correct. The API is the service that we're connecting to. 404 is the. I wonder if it's this. I wonder if it's that. Make sure you're using the latest build. Docker Compose. As far as I know, get inside the container, use the bash, and I can check the particular PHP file finds my nginx conf. Okay, all right. Mount your volume in nginx and PHP containers. Ah, right, that old chestnut. Yes, I've missed a step. I have missed a step. So the volumes not only needs to be in the API, but also needs to be in nginx land as well. So we'll put that in there too. Woo. Yeah, there's things that I probably need to add, like read-only attributes and whatnot. But let's work on one thing at a time. So I'm going to come out of this, and we're going to do a Docker Compose up again. And then I'm going to just grab that, put that over there for a second. Yay, right, there we go. That's now working. So we now have hello world. Okay, so we now have we're now in a position where we have the database running, we've got nginx running, and we've got the PHP FPM container running, which is on 8.1. So, you know, it's getting to a point where we are comfortable to probably close down this ticket. I think we probably need to look at the README. So we do have do we have a ticket for the README? Let me see. We don't. However, I do think that we have yeah, we'll deal with the README separately. So I think what we'll do is we'll do a git status, and we'll do a and we'll start committing these things in. So there's quite a few things to do. I think what I'll do is just do git add of well, let's do this properly. So we're on ticket 12. So, and the changes that we've made are in the API folder. We've got our nginx directory, so we can do git commit -m of 12, and we're going to say adding nginx docker Docker container, and this is going to be in infra, it's going to be in nginx, and that should be good. Right, git status. What else? We have the API as well, so we've got to do git commit -m of 12, because 12 is our thing. We've got infra. Oh, sorry. Adding fpm config. So that is in infra. That is in API. Git status again. Right, we've got the Docker file in the working directory, and we've got public index. So let's do a git commit -m12 again, and we'll do adding index.php test file. So that's in public index. And then we've got our Docker Compose and our Docker file. So we can do git commit -m 12 again, and adding API Docker file. And we've got the Docker Compose changes. So we've got git commit -m 12, and this is going to be adding Docker Compose config. Right, git status, that should be good. Let's do a git push and have a little look at what that involves. Let's do 12 Docker Compose. Right, let's go over to GitHub and have a look at the project. Well, let's have a look at the repo, sorry. Code quiz. Compare and poll. Let's have a look at the files. So that looks fine. That's our Docker Compose file. That looks good. We should probably be adding new lines to these things, but that's okay. We can do that later. So create a pull request and then push this through. Cool. All right. So this is looking good. Let's get rid of the branch. Let's do this in this mode. So that's done. Boom. Nice. When they're done, does this get closed? No. Great. That's annoying. Let's close this down. I should probably close it when I do the PR actually, but whatever. So that's done. We have create JSON file. Yeah, okay, create the folder structure. That's already done as well. So we'll close that down. Right. Okay. So the next thing to do is to install Symfony. So what we can do is bring that into to do. And I guess what we should do is deal with this public folder as well. So we can go into the code and we can say, right, git checkout of main, git pull, and then we can do, well, I'm wondering actually if we should take a breath and update the README file. So create install docs in the README. I think that's probably what we need to do, because we've now got a thing where we can actually install stuff. So I'll convert that to an issue, and I'll work on that. So I'll put that in there, and I'll get rid of that. I'll put that at the top. Right, so create install docs for the README. What we need to do is, we're on main, right? So what was the ticket number? 15. Git checkout -b of 15 install docs. Right, so what I would like to do is create a README file at the root directory. MD, and this README file. Why isn't that? Yes, I want to add that. Thank you. Should be at the root, not at code quiz. So there we go. There we go. So we don't yet have anything in terms of like, well, we don't have any documentation. This will be the first thing. So code quiz. So this is an open source project that will open source project. I know this is going outside of the realms of which will include an API and a app for the code quizzes. Okay, so we'll have an install guide. Why is that so frustrating? Right, here we go. Install. So we need let's do install API. So we need a couple of things. So we need to cd into API, and then once you've gone into the API directory, we need to run docker compose up -d -d, and then yeah, so go into the, so number one is to change directory to /API. Fine. So that will be this one. And we probably don't need to do, yeah, that's that one. Right, number two is spin up the containers, the Docker containers. And I guess we should probably also have system requirements as well, right? Change to spin up containers. Okay, so then there's MySQL, right? So we've got yeah. Database. So to access the database, run the following, and that will be something like Docker. Hey, Kitten Opera, thank you for following me. Appreciate that. That'll be Docker exe. Hope you're well. -it API db1 MySQL -u root -p and we'll put in a note here about the password is set in the DB service in the Docker Docker compose.yaml. Okay, right. I think that's probably enough. I guess what we could do on 3, we've got. Well, we could probably do with like. Web server, right? To access the web server, go to, and we could probably do this like localhost. So this is HTTP local host. Okay, fine. Let's just tidy this up a bit. So that should be right. Cool. Okay. Let's put that in. Git. I'm in the terminal. Sorry. Yeah. I need to be in here, don't I? Git status. That should have been added, right? So let's come out of that, and then git commit -m. 12. Is it 12? No, 15. Adding install guide to README. Right, git push. Set upstream. Origin. 15. Install Docker. Boom. What? Oh, it's not the right branch. Right. Hang on. Oh, I didn't specify the. Oh, you idiot! You didn't specify the file. There we go. Fine. Okay. So after that painful episode, we seem to have got now the documentation running. So if we go back to the repo, we should see in repositories, code quiz, we should see our README file once we merge this in. Create a poll. So there's no CI yet at all, which is something we'll have to add as soon as we install Symfony. So anyway, if we go back to here, we should see now the install guide. Cool. Okay, so let's see what we can do. Let's close that down. I should really do my closing of the when I do the PRs. So we need to install Symfony 6. That's what we need to do. So that's what I want to do. So let's bring out the. I don't know why I'm closing those down. I can't need them. Right. So here we go. We need to install Symfony. So So we need to get into the container, which is in our well, first of all, we need to get into main, right? And then we need to, let's pull down the latest. Look at my fingers, there's paint on them still. It's annoying. Then we need to do a git checkout, find out what the ticket is, which I believe is going to be 16, maybe? 6, 5 even. So git checkout hyphen wrong window. 6, or was it 5? I've now lost my trail of thought. Where are we? We're on 5, right? 5. Install Symfony, right? And then we do we get into the container. So we do exec and we get into the API container, not the Nginx container, the API container. We should have Composer. We do. So if we just did Composer version a minute. There we go. So that's good. So that's cool. So we have Composer installed. What we kind of need to do is actually run it off of this directory, off of HTML. I think, or do we do it inside? I'll probably need to play around with this a bit. So we got, yeah, we'll do it there. So I'm going to do an rm minus rvf of public. Actually, I'll do this as let's do this as the does not exist, does it not? Use the or the user entry does not contain all the fine. Let's just run it as root for a minute. We probably need to change a bunch of stuff afterwards, but let's do a create project. Actually, ls, yeah, let's do a remove of the public directory. There we go. Now let's do a Composer create project. And we'll do Symfony skeleton, and we'll do 6.1 point asterisk. Let me just see current. I just want to double check the versioning of Symfony a minute before I do anything. So the stable is 6.1.4. The long term is 5.4. Let's run Symfony 6 because yeah, because there's no reason why not to. Right. So it's saying run this if you're building microservices, console, or an API. That's what we need to do. So Symfony, but that's using the Symfony console command, which we don't have. So what we should do is create project. Run this if you're building a traditional web application. We're not. Run this if you're using a microservice, console, or API, which we are. So Symfony create project, Symfony skeleton, 6.1 asterisk, and then the directory in which we want to use. So let's, yeah, because we don't need web app. So let's put that into quotes, and see, this is where it might get a bit tricky because we are technically within the technically in the app directory. So we may have to do this and then move everything out into the next level. But let's just see what happens. So let's build it. Downloads all the things. Grab a slurp of my drink. Good. So if we did an ls now, we have skeleton, right? And in skeleton, so we do an ls of skeleton, we have the public directory, we've got the vendor directories, and all that. So this needs to go to the level where I was just at, var HTML. So we need to basically move everything from skeleton over to here. So let's do that. mv minus rv f of skeleton. Everything out of there goes into here. Oh, are we not using that? Do we not do recursive on an mv? I thought we did. Apparently not. So if we did an ls now, there we go. So ls minus al. So we've got all the things, including the if we did an ls minus al of skeleton. So we're missing the .env and the .gitignore. So let's move that as well. mv skeleton .env to there. And the gitignore is something that we're going to have to merge, I think, because we've already got one. So let's get back into. I always think I'm out of this thing, but I'm not. So there we go. We can see all the stuff coming through now. We still have the skeleton directory, and in there we've got our gitignore from Symfony. So we're going to copy that. And we're going to put it into our gitignore, which should be in there. Like so. And okay, there is a space up there for some reason. Let's add that in. I don't know if that's required or not, but let's just keep it nice and consistent. Okay, so now what we can do. So if we did an ls again of minus al of skeleton, so it's just that. So we can remove skeleton now. So skeleton rm minus r of skeleton. There we go. So we've got an ls minus al of this directory. We should have our public in here, which we do. And if we were to do an ls of public, then we have our index.php, which is great. So that's looking good. Yeah, so this is our root level directory now of the API directory that we created earlier. We still have our infra directory for things like the Nginx scripts and the actual API itself. So that's fine. We might change this to be, instead of scripts, we might change that to be config, because it kind of makes sense. And we might change and just remove Nginx, because that's just an extra level that doesn't make sense. But again, these are just small little tweaks. I guess the important thing here is to make sure that the permissions are set correctly. So what we need to do is to stay in here and to do an ls minus al of var. So we've got our cache and our log stuff. So we need to transform that minus r of data data of var cache. Right. Let's do the top level as well. Right. And we're going to do the same for log as well. Right, so if I did an ls minus al now of the var directory, we should have that set, which is correct. Fine. We probably need to do the same for the root thing as well. So if we did an ls minus al of, not the root, of the public, public is set to root, so we probably need to change that too. So Tron, let's change that to be public. There we go. Right. So I think that is pretty much good. So let's go and see if let's see now if anything is running. So yes, our Symfony site is now running. Woo! So we're now on Symfony 6.1. We've got no problems, which is good, because usually things go wrong on the first pass. But no, that's pretty good. Right. So we've now installed Symfony. Congratulations. Let's come out of here before we get too ahead of ourselves. Let's deal with the commits. Git status here. We have all sorts of things that we want to commit in, including, the src, the lock file, composer itself. We want to make sure that that things are correct. So let's take a look at the bin directory. Let's take a look at the bin directory. So we've got console. I tell you what, before we jump in, let's just see if I can run commands. That's probably good, right? So let's do bin console. Can I do that? Yes, I can. Fine. Okay. There's not really much left to do, to be honest. It's running. I can see it. I can see the page. So perhaps you're seeing this because you haven't configured the homepage directory and debug mode is enabled. I mean, that's fine. That's fine. And I think we're good to just commit it now. So we'll do git status and we'll put this in a single commit, git commit -am, because we haven't done anything else. -am, adding or installing Symfony 6. Actually, we need to put this on to the ticket number, right? So 5. Installing Symfony 6. Right. Git push. 5. Oh, sorry. Set upstream origin. 5. Install Symfony. Good. Right. Why is that? Hang on a minute. I've just seen a question mark on my prompt. Okay, I need to do it. Git add of API. Yes, I need to add those. I haven't done that. Naughty of me. Try using -f. The following paths are ignored by one of your git ignore files. Oh. I tried to add all of them. That was silly of me, wasn't it? I shouldn't have done that. Let's just do that. Git status. That's better. Config. Yes, that's better. Right. So again, git commit -am installing Symfony 6. Git push. Right. And then let's go over to GitHub here and actually see what that PR looks like. So let's do issues. No. Sorry, code. Beg your pardon. Compare and poll. Right, so we've got this. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, of course. I mean, this is just basic stuff, isn't it, from Symfony? There's nothing custom that I've created here. There's nothing in here that is a risk. No. The lock file is fine. We should also have a composer lock file, right? Somewhere. There we go. Our lock file. Okay, yeah, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to... can I do closes... sorry, can I do closes 6? Where did that go? Here we go. Can we do, say... 5? It was 5. Can we do closes 5? Create poll. Merge poll. Confirm the merge. Delete the branch. Does that close that ticket? Yes, it does. Okay, so that's what I needed to have done with the other ones. This is what happens when you live in GitLab land for you know, a bit. I'm doing this on GitHub because I want to use I want this to be an open source project rather than a private project, which is what the other repos are. So there's that. Okay, so that's pretty cool. We have our Symfony 6 thing. I should probably close that down as well. Oh no, that is closed. I've just done that. Silly me. Yeah, so that's good. So that's done. Right, so then we can start adding the entities to all this, and this is kind of the fun stuff. I think what I'm going to do though, I'm going to just take a wee break because I kind of need to. Well, I need to stretch my legs, and also I'm going to get a cup of tea, and I'm going to try and get this bloody paint off again with my fingers. I look like a painter and decorator. We were painting the swing outside this morning, and I don't know. Just can't get it off. Can't get it off. So I'll be a couple of minutes. I'm going to make myself a cup of tea as well. So I will be back soon. And then we'll do, I think we've got the maker bundle, right? So if we, let me just see before I dive off. I think we have the maker bundle. Let me get back to that. So if we did console, no, if we did bin console make, we should have command make is not defined. You may be looking for maker bundle, which is not currently installed. Try running composer symfony maker. Right. Okay, so when I get back, we're going to install this, and then we're going to use the maker bundle to then make the entities. And then we'll create some migrations, and then we'll install those into the database. Cool. Right. So we're getting there. I will dive off and be back shortly. See you in a bit. Yes. See you in a bit. See you in a bit. Okay, so what we can do, got me tea. So what we can do is start installing the maker bundle. So I can't remember. Are we still in install Symfony? We are. Let's do a git checkout of main again, and git pull down all the things. Cool. Git checkout -b, and we want to look at creating the entity, the quiz entity, which is the kind of the simplest entity. It just has these three things in table schema. So what's that? 7. So we want to do 7. Let's do quiz entity. Right. So we want to get in as bash, right? So we want to get in as this, and we want to do a composer. Well, hang on a minute. Yeah, we want to do a composer install of that maker bundle, which is it's composer require, not install, of course. So it's that command. So let's run that. Oops. That didn't work. That didn't quite do what I wanted it to do. Composer require, and it is Symfony Maker. Is it Symfony Maker Bundle or just Symfony Maker? Never remember. Symfony Maker -bundle. Maker bundle. And we want to do this in dev mode. Let me just double check that that's correct. Symfony Maker bundle. Yep. Cool. So we want to install those. I'm gonna for speed. I'm gonna just create a new thing here. Let's do a git status. So git commit -am. Adding. Oh, let's put this back to 7. Okay. Let's just copy that. Cool. Right, and then back over here, where we're in here. So we've got all of those things. We can now do bin console make, and so this is what we've got. We've got things like making entities. That's what we want. So we want to do a make bin console make, and then entity, and this requires the ORM. Of course it does. Composer require ORM. Get all that stuff. The ORM pack, everything. Wait for that to be installed, and I'll go on to the next tab and I'll commit it. Come on. Come on, come on. Do. Aha, right. This recipe contains, this may create Docker, or what? Doctrine bundle. Contains some Docker configuration. Do you want to include Docker configuration from recipes? No, not really. I don't know why that would have. I'm going to put in no, or n. There we go. Don't know why. Okay, so now it's doing that cache clearance. Come on, 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 come on. Got myself some peppermint. Was it peppermint and licorice tea? Licorice and peppermint tea. Yeah, peppermint and licorice tea. Right, so that is in flight now. That's good. So if we go to this tab, do a git status. We should have our composer lock file, migrations file, folders, and all the other stuff. That looks good. I want to just see what's in the .env file. Okay, right. So it's just configuration and change me stuff. Okay, fine. So we probably need to adjust those as well. So yeah, we can do that whilst we're here. So in our API, in our .env, in the database URL, which is here, we need to change this, I believe, to MySQL, and change that to that's the database host. So that will be DB, I think. No, sorry, that's the username, and that's the password, and that's the host. Yeah, of course it is. So that's root, that's test. This is the host, so that would be DB. And this is the port, so that would be 3306. This looks like the database name, so oh no, my mouse has decided to, there we go. I think I need to charge it. So this would be code_quiz, I think. Then we've got the server version and all of that jazz. So I'm not entirely sure what that would be. Are we supplying the server version on the in Docker Compose? What is this at 10.9.2? So I think let me just see on the documentation. So doctorin server version for Maria. I think it's slightly different. Maria DB. Maria DB. That's no. It would help if I could spell doctrine correctly. How to use Maria DB. Here we go. Yeah, it is a wee bit different because you need to put in MariaDB in here. You have to do that, and we need to set it to the right version, and I don't think that's the correct one. 10.4.14 I think is not what we're using. I think we're using well, let's just go to it. It's in our Docker Compose file. It is 10.9.2. 10.9.2. Okay, so root test db 3306 code quiz, the server version, and the char set. I think we're good. Right. So anything else? What else has changed? We've got that's all good. This log file's good. we've got migrations, entity, and repository. Okay, so let's do that. Let's git add of everything in API that we've just seen. There we go. So git commit -am, and this is installing ORM and configuring database URL. Obviously, we'll have a different URL for other versions of environments and stuff, but for now, that's good. Okay, so we'll push that up. That's cool. So I suppose we should jump back into the container and actually see if this works. So let's do bin console, and I believe, well, it's this. Let's go back to maker and then entity. It'll throw an error if it can't hit the database. Entity, and N. It's got a T in it. There we go. I think. Is that right? No. Make, not maker. Oh, okay. Right, here we go. The class name. So we want to create the entity for the quiz, with the quiz entity. So let's do quiz like that. Okay, cool. So a new property name or return to stop adding fields. So we want what do we want? We want an ID. ID property already exists. Fine. We want a title, and it is a string, and it's 255. And can this be nullable or not? No. Okay, so then we add another one, and that is going to be our slug. It is a string. It's fine, and it can't be nullable either. So add another. So that appears to be correct. Right. So let's go and have a little look and see what it's created. So if we go into src and entity and go into our quiz, we have here. Right. Let's configure my local IDEs to use PHP 8, which I don't think. Yeah, it's on 5.6. 8.1. There we go. 8.1. Apply. Okay. So there we go. Right. Fine. So we've got the ID in here. That's great. We've got our string. I thought I set these not to be nullable. Right, that's strange. Because they're set to be nullable. We've got our repository in there. So we've got add, remove. All right, we're not going to allow, actually, no, we will keep add and remove because we need some way of adding these things, but we won't expose that to the end, to the API. Find by example, find one by. So that's fine, but I'm just wondering why these are set to nullable. Let's kill it. Let's do an RM of src, and let's destroy the quiz, and also src repository quiz. Let's do it again. I'm not convinced that I did that correct. So let's run this again. So we want quiz, and we want to have a title. It is a string. It's 255. Can this field be null in the database? No. Add another property. Slug. That's fine. That's fine. No. Right. Let's go back and have a look at it. Okay. In the database. That's why. Okay. Right. I was looking at the question mark and I was wondering why it's nullable there in the code, but it's not nullable in the column. So that's fine. That's cool. That's all right. So what we can do is start making the migration. So we can do a bin console make migration. And this should make a migration file for that entity. Okay, the Symfony bridge, logger, DBL, class implements. Okay. So, okay, this is just a deprecated warning. That's fine. We've created the migration. Migrations will live in here under migrations. That's the migration we've created. Let's have a little review. So on up, it's creating the quiz table with an ID, which is auto incremented, a title, which is a varchar, which isn't null, a slug, which isn't null, and 255 varchar. The primary key is an ID. That looks good, and there should be a down as well, so drop it. Yep, good. Cool. All right. Exit that. We smashed through that one. Git status. Right. So we're adding the migration, we've added the entity, and we've added the repository. Git. So let me review that repository a minute because I'm not convinced. I don't want to add any commented out code. So we've got remove, we've got add. We also have find one by, and find all, which I think at the minute is okay. So we're going to get rid of all of this stuff. We don't need to worry about any of that. That's just kind of examples. We've got remove and we've got add. I think for now we'll leave that as is because we need obviously a way to add them and remove them. So we'll leave that as is. All right, so git commit -am. This is, what's this, number 7? Yes. Number 7. Adding quiz entity. Oh, I tell you what I should do. Before we do any of this, we should run that migration file. So we need to do bin console in the actual container. We should do bin console. Now I can't remember what the command is. Something to do with migrate. Migration state. Let's run that first. Right, so we've got one new migration, which is to be expected. So let's see if we can migrate it. So we should do, because this, there's no point in committing something that won't work. So let's migrate it. Migrate. So yes, please. That's cool. Going into the code_quiz database. Right, there we go. So we've migrated that. I'm going to just jump into the actual database. So we'll do MySQL. There we go. And we'll go in as test, and we'll say use code_quiz as the database, and we'll do show tables. We should have our quiz table created, which we do, as well as our doctrine thing. So let's do describe of quiz, and we should see that all of those things are created, and then its default is null, but null is no. That's fine. Okay, so going back to, I need to bring up another one, don't I? Going into here, let's do git status, make sure that it's just those 3 that we need. That's correct. Let's do git add of API, and let's do a git commit -am, and it's number 7. So this is adding a quiz entity, repository, and migration file. git push. Right, now I need to also update the documentation to say that we need to run migrations. So that would be in the README, right? So after we've installed it, we need to run the migrations. Now, whether I need to do this in the entry point, or whether I put this in manually, I think I'm going to do this for now just as a manual step. So 3, run the migrations, run the data base migrations. So we probably can do this from, from outside of the container. We don't have to jump into the container to do it. We can do docker compose, docker-compose, execc, and its app, and it is bin console doctrine migrations. I think this is right. Migrate. Let's give that a whirl. That'll let us know. No configuration found. What? No configuration file found. It's not app. Sorry, it's not app. Do I have? I don't. I don't seem to have my. There we go. Right. Sorry, I'm just trying to work out. I don't use this keyboard often, so let me just work out how to do this. I want to jump from one. Nope. So that's. Nope. Nope. There we go. There we go. Right. Sorry, I just wanted to jump from thing to thing. So we're gonna, we're going to get rid of you, and we're going to change this to be API. No. No configuration found. Oh, is it complaining that I'm in the wrong directory? No, I've just come out of it. Code quiz ls. I should be in the API directory, that's why. And we should have our docker file. Yes, okay, sorry about that. Beg your pardon. Let's run that command again. There we go. So pass that as is yes, and there we go. It's right. So that's the command that we need. That's all I wanted to use that for, was to grab that. So let's do bash and put that down there. Right, so run the migrations to deal with the database stuff. Cool. All right. Git status. Git commit -am. Again, it's in 7, and if I can remember this shortcut key again, it should be. Nope. Yes. Yes. Can I select? It would be that way. Nope. Sorry, I'm just trying to play with the. No. Okay, fine. Right. Sorry, I've gone and messed everything up now, haven't I? Let's go back a couple. So that would be. Right, let's just get rid of all this. There is a shortcut key to select and remove. I'm sure of it. So git commit -am, and what are we doing? Oh yeah, updating install guide to document database migrations. Lovely. Push that up. All right. So, I mean, we've got our first database table running. We've got our first entity working. That's really quite good. Yes, that's really quite good. I suppose what we could do is, I'm thinking maybe we should combine this ticket with the others as well. No, that's far too much. That's far too much stuff. Let's just bash through this. Right, sorry. What am I doing? I need to get the code and compare and poll. There, let's do this bite size. So let's just check all the things. So we've dealt with this. We put in our dev credentials. We've installed all of those bits and pieces. We've updated the bundles directory. We've updated or added doctrine configuration, which is default, and the migrations. And we've created our own migration file, as well as the entity and also the repository. Symfony lock is being updated too. Okay, so that's great. I'm gonna create the pull request. I'm going to change this to be closes. Not the browser. Don't close the browser. Closes 7. There we go. Update comment. Merge pull. Confirm the merge. Delete the branch. Okay, so that should now be closed, which it looks like it is. Yes, so let's go and create the question entity. So let's dive into that. Let's go git checkout main. Let's pull that down. Right, let's git checkout -b, and what's that? It is 8. So this is question entity, and we will just thinking of time. I think what we'll do is we'll leave that here and we'll pick this up next week, I think, because it is running into how many hours have I been doing this? 3 hours, nearly 3.5 hours. So I'm going to take a slip of tea and then I'm going to go back into talking mode and we'll talk about what we're going to do going forward. So where's the camera? There's the camera. So we have got the Symfony application running. We've got the database running, PHP FPM running. Everything's working fine. We need to build the entity for the question and the entity for the answer. And as we go through, we need to obviously update the README and all that stuff. The whole point of this application is to build an API for the code quiz. So I do code quizzes every weekday on Instagram and on Twitter. So I put those out as like Twitter polls and Instagram stories. And what I would like is for this API to store those. So in the database, they would be stored, and then have eventually have an app, probably a React Native app, that connects to this and pulls down the quizzes and the questions in a sort of an app. And the way I'm thinking is like flashcards. If you're practicing on, if you're studying for an exam, say a certification on certain areas of programming and code, or if you're just learning code from scratch, this app could be used to sort of give you guidance as to certain programming concepts. And I've only done it for 3 weeks. So far, I've done HTML and JavaScript. Actually, I've only done it for 2 weeks. They're the two. So the first week it was all HTML. There was a PHP question in there as well. And last week was JavaScript. So it was all JavaScript-based questions. Next week is going to be CSS questions. I already have those questions in my notes. So that's pretty cool. And then following on from there, who knows? We could do Java. We could do Perl, we could do PHP, we could do a whole manner of things. There's also stuff I want to do regarding just programming in general, like control structures and maybe UML and things like that. So the idea is that we have these quizzes, and a quiz will have a bunch of questions, and the questions will have a bunch of answers, and one of which of those answers will be correct. That is what the MVP is at the minute. Going forward, moving on after that, we'll have all sorts of features going in, such as tagging these quizzes, so like having compatibility, complexity levels, so like level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, or beginner, intermediate, advanced, that kind of stuff. We could also tag them by certain aspects of programming, security, DevOps, a whole manner of things. So yeah, I see this application as an application that actually has legs, and is worth doing. So I'm preparing this. Today has been the first stream doing this, and the idea is that this is going to be built in such a way that allows people to actually contribute back. So it's going to be an open source project, and it's completely open at the minute. So you can see this on GitHub, on the How to Code Well repositories. It's called Code Quiz, and if you want to help me out, then please do so if you want to follow along. And I think what I'll do is I'll continue building these things on Twitch, and then on the YouTube streams on Tuesdays, we may do a little bit of the React Native stuff. I haven't done a lot of React Native personally, so that will be an interesting challenge to do. This kind of it scratches one of my itches, that I want to build an app for How to Code Well. So there we go. I need to dive off. Thank you ever so much for watching. Happy coding, everybody, and have a fantastic rest of your Sunday. Speak to you again soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.